All right. Okay, well, I hope you guys are doing all right. So today we're going to continue on in ggplot, some stuff there. Before I go over ggplot, I'll cover the tic-tac-toe code. I think it's maybe at a relevant time to cover. And on Piazza, there's kind of like it was almost a 2-to-1 ratio to in terms of who wanted to see the tic-tac-toe code reviewed and who didn't. So we'll go over that. Before I start all of that, give me a moment to, I guess, be a little cheesy, but I mean it with all sincerity when I say this, okay? And that is, everything will be okay, all right? And I know it's week 5. I know you've probably had midterms in some classes, or you've got midterms coming up in other classes. There's a midterm on Friday for this class. And so I know it can be a stressful time, all right? So I'm going to just say a few things, all right? So your value as a person is not tied to your grades or your academic performance. I think it... I don't know what happened there, but I mean, I sincerely mean that, all right? You are people, and and I'm happy to be your teacher, and I'm happy to see you guys here. But there's no need to, put burdens on yourself just over your grades, okay? It feels good to get good grades. I get that, but they really are not the most important thing in life. So, and so this part's important, okay? You never want to sacrifice your physical health, mental health, or integrity for the pursuit of good grades, okay? So this means if you need to sleep, okay? Your sleep and your physical health is more important than, getting an A or whatever it is, okay? Or, if you're feeling, overwhelmed and you're feeling anxiety or depression coming on or things like that, maybe it's good to take a break or reduce your workload, okay? You can drop a class, you can take a break off from school, and it's okay, all right? I don't want anybody to feel shame for having to take a break from school or needing to drop a class, okay? It's good to recognize that you've reached a certain limit in terms of how much you can handle at one time. And there's no shame because your neighbor or whatever, your friend, can take on 6 classes and get A's in all of them, okay? Everybody is different and different, based on different life circumstances, okay? All sorts of crap could have happened in your life at a certain time. That happens, and maybe that means you can take a break from school. There's no shame for that, okay? And of course, your integrity. You want to be proud of the journey you take. You want to say, you want to be able to look back and not regret any of the decisions you've made in terms of whatever you had to do. So really, if and I hope this is not the case, but I do know there's 80 in this class and 80 in the other class. So between the 160 of you, there is a significant probability that at least a few of you might be, facing some kind of issues that, and I just want to say it's okay if you have to take a break, if you have to drop a class or do something, okay? As far as this class goes, the absolute worst thing that could possibly happen is you get a grade lower than what you wanted, or you have to drop the class. That's the absolute worst thing that can happen. And it might feel like a big deal at the time, okay? Especially when, so much of your energy and effort is going into your schoolwork right now, and so it feels like, what am I doing if you have to, if you get what you might consider a bad grade, or if you have to drop the class. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal, okay? This is 1 quarter. It's a 3-month span, okay? I'm hoping all of you live, many, many years, and this is just a tiny little fraction of one little slice. And so what? You get a bad grade. It's okay, all right. You can retake the class. You can drop the class. You can retake it. All sorts of things. Perhaps it delays your graduation. Okay, that certainly is a possibility. But again, that is completely okay. I don't want anybody to feel any shame, or I don't want there to be a stigma about taking an extra year to graduate or having to take some time off. Okay, these things are just normal and natural that a lot of students experience. It's okay, all right? So, and this is my last line here. You are a complete and capable human with or without this or any other class, okay? And each of you have so much to offer the world. So, if you feel stress, if you feel things, I just want to say it's going to be okay, all right? So, and I mean that, so, thank you for listening and indulging me. We're going to have a midterm exam, okay? Some of you guys are worried about it. Don't worry about it, okay? Worry doesn't help anybody's scenario, okay? You do your best, you study, you put your time and your effort in, and then you do your best on the exam, and what grade you get is the grade you get, and that's okay. You don't have to be embarrassed or ashamed of anything, okay? Okay, that's all. All right, so I'm gonna go over the tic-tac-toe code here, and I'm gonna pause the video because I don't want like a permanent record of this thing, just because I plan on assigning tic-tac-toe in the future, and so I want students in the future to think through the process of coming up with the solutions for themselves. So I'm gonna pause the video here. All right. Okay. That took a little bit longer than I would have liked, so we only have a few minutes to go over some ggplot stuff. Really, the ggplot, the excellent ggplot resource on the R Graphics Cookbook, I think this will answer like 99% of your questions, and Google will answer the rest. And perhaps ggplot is not the answer, but for a lot of cases you can do a lot of things with ggplot. Okay, so we're going to cover some of these basic geometries, the bar, line, and point, and I'll just talk about some of these things here. Okay, so with the bar graph, if you have your data formatted this way, where you want the height of the bar to be determined by one column, okay, then you would just map this column to the height of the bar, okay? So in ggplot, remember, we are doing aesthetic mappings. We're mapping a visual or aesthetic property. We're mapping a data column to that property, okay? So your data has to be formatted so that the columns contain the information that you want represented. So in this case, we have three values here. These are three different categories, I guess, controls, TRT1 and TRT2. I don't even know what these mean. But we've got, and three values that we want to graph. Okay, so we're going to just take our data, we're going to map the group to the X, and that tells ggplot we want these three values in X to appear along the X-axis, the group variable. And then the height of the bar is determined by the weight column, okay, and that's what we do. And stat equals identity tells it just use that value directly, okay? Because geom bar, well, I'll show you this in a second. Geom bar's default behavior is to try to tabulate things for you. But here we're just going to say the value that we want mapped to the height is available in a column already, so we're going to do stat is equal to identity there. Creating side-by-side bar plots, okay, this something that looks like this. Here we are just mapping another categorical variable to the color of the bar, okay? So here the aesthetic mapping is that we have two categorical variables. We've got the cultivar, either C39 or cultivar 52, okay? And then we have three categories of the date, okay? We have D16, D20, and D21, okay? We have three dates. These are our two categorical variables. So the date will determine the x-axis. We're going to map that to the x. And then the color of the bar we are mapping to cultivar, or cultivar we are mapping to the color or the fill of that bar, okay? The height of the bar is going to be determined by the weight column, and so that's all we're doing. We're just mapping the values in weight to the height of the bar, okay? Stat equals identity means the height of the bars are stored directly in this column, and to indicate that we want the bars next to each other, we use position equals dodge. If we wanted the bars, if we did not specify position equals dodge, the bar would be stacked on top of each other, okay? And so this creates our side-by-side bar plot. Again, we are just mapping that cultivar variable, that column, whether it's C39 or C52, that gets mapped to the color of the fill color of the bar. Okay? The default behavior of geom bar, if we don't do any aesthetic mappings to Y, is kind of the way you've probably learned how to make bar plots in your intro stats class, right? So in intro stats, you'd have like this big table, and it would be like, you'd have all of these. You'd ask people, what color is your hair? And they'd say, my hair is black, my hair is brown, my hair is blonde, or something like that, okay? And then if you wanted to make a bar plot, you would have to then take that column and then summarize it. And you'd say, oh, I counted 40 people with black hair, and I counted 50 people with brown hair, and I counted 30 people with blonde hair, or something like that, okay? If you didn't, and if you summarize that, and you wanted to create that, you would use stat equals identity, and you'd say, I want the black hair column to be 50 high, and I want the brown hair column to be, I forget, whatever numbers I said, okay? On the other hand, if you didn't bother summarizing that, you can just use the default behaviors of geom bar. So in this case, we're going to look at the diamonds data set, which has like almost 54,000 rows on diamond information. So, if you're ever going to buy a diamond ring or diamond for whatever reason, they rate these diamonds on different things. There's the carat and the clarity and the color, and one of these things is the cut. And some person with a little monocle goes, oh, this is a diamond cut premium, or diamond cut ideal, or diamond cut just good, or something, okay? And so here we go, and we just say, what we're going to do is we're going to map the cut to the x-axis, okay? And so that's going to go fair, good, very good, premium, ideal, okay? And then we're going to say geom bar. Notice we did not map anything to the y, okay? Because if we look at our data set, there's no variable here that can be mapped to y, or that we want to map to y. What we want to do is we want to have the height represent how many things have ideal cut, how many things have premium cut. That column doesn't exist. The count of that thing doesn't exist. If we did have a column that exists, then we would use stat equals identity, and we would map that column to y. But in this case, that thing doesn't exist, and so we just don't map anything to the y. We use the default behavior of geom underscore bar, which then goes through the thing, counts up how many things there are, and then produces a bar graph this way. All right, is that okay? You can map variables to the fill color, okay? And so in here we've got just this data set where we're looking at states and how much their population grew between 2000 and 2010. So, Arizona grew by 25%, Nevada grew a lot by 35%, okay? And apparently we've categorized them into different regions, and these are states in either the west or the south, okay? And here we're just looking at 10 of the states that seem to have high population growth. Okay, so if I want to map that variable, the region, which is categorical, to the color, I just do fill is equal to region as far as aesthetic mappings go. Okay, and here it goes just like this. All you can map a numeric variable to the color as well. Okay, and so notice my key here. There's just two things. It's either, excuse me, the region is south or the region is west, and these are the colors that appear. Here I'm mapping the numeric variable change, and I know I already mapped the numeric variable change to the height of the bar, but here I'm also mapping it to the fill color. All right, and so here the color of the bar represents the magnitude of the change, and ggplot automatically creates the scale for us and says, if it's dark blue or almost black, then it represents this, value of like 17 or something. Whereas up to bright blue, it goes up to values of 35. Okay, and everything in between represents something in between. Our eyes are much better at distinguishing between heights of bars. Okay, like we can say, this one's dark, and this one's a little bit lower than this one, which is a little bit lower than this one. Our eyes are probably not as good at distinguishing between colors here. Okay, and studies have shown that women are better at distinguishing shades of color than men are for whatever reason. Just the way our eyes are built, they're slightly different. Okay, and so who knows? Okay, so you can definitely map colors and scales to the color, but if you've got these, if it's very important to be able to distinguish very clearly what's different, then color is probably not the best thing, but you can do this. Okay, if we want to rearrange the bars, we can do that. Okay, and now we got this nice thing, and we go from dark to bright. Here I'm using for the aesthetic mapping, we're saying we want to reorder the position on the x-axis. Okay, so it's still an aesthetic mapping of the state abbreviation to x, except instead of using the default ordering, we're saying we want to reorder them based on the variable change. Okay, so this goes inside our aesthetic mapping here. And now it is in order by the magnitude of change here. Okay, you can do custom colors. All you have to do is you just say, I want to manually set the scale. Okay, so for categorical variables, you specify the colors. You can write yellow and green. You don't have to use these hex codes. You just put whatever it is, and you give it this. You can do the same thing here, although it got cut off in the thing. You do scale fill gradient, okay, and you say on the low end I want red, and on the high end I want blue, or something else, okay, and R will automatically try to figure out what colors go in between red and blue, okay, and then you can map the United States this way and say California is this color and Texas is this color, and stuff like that, and on a county-wide basis or whatever, right? This is, and it turns out it's mostly purple. Okay. All right, now we can talk about line graphs, and I got like 2 minutes left. But okay, so line graphs, similar to scatter plots and things like that, we're just going to map one column to the x, another column to the y, and then we just say we want these things connected, and we just say geom line, and when we do that, we're mapping this, and it connects them. Okay. We can, if we have another variable that we want to map to the thing. Okay. So here I'm just saying we're going to map dosage to x and length to y, but I've got kind of this categorical variable, and here this is some experiment where they gave guinea pigs orange juice and vitamin C, and we want to see how much their teeth grew. I don't know what experiment this was, but this is an experiment they did, and we might say, oh, okay, I want the color of the line to be determined by whether they got orange juice or vitamin C. So here we're just mapping dose to x, length to y, and the color, we are mapping that supplement type to the color, and we do this, and it figures out, okay, I got to get two different colors here. Instead of color, we can do the line type being whether it's a solid line or a dotted line or things like that. Okay, and I don't know if you guys can see in the projection, but this line is dotted and this line is solid, okay? And here the only thing I changed was instead of color, I did line type, okay? Obviously line type, it's gonna have to be a categorical variable that you are mapping to line type, okay? Because you're not gonna be able to map a numeric variable there, okay? All right, we are running out of time here. So anyway, we'll end here. Good luck as you guys study for the midterm exam. And again, don't worry. Worry does us no good. So just do your best, and we'll see you guys on Friday. Good luck. And that's it.